Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. I hope you are doing great. Today, Nelly and I, we are on another interesting session, and we're talking today about talking about safety for our children. You know, in today's world, we are not just struggling how to raise the children, making sure we put food on the table, making sure the kids have clothes to wear, and making sure that maybe they do well in their academics and in other ways of life. One thing that worries us as parents is the safety of our children. And so Nelly and I today, we're going to be talking on this and sharing our own experiences. And hopefully you might pick up one or two things today from this session that it will go a long way to help you. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Peggy Barre. I am the founder of Arise and Thrive Academy and a domestic abuse practitioner. I'll pass it to Nelly to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. It's always a pleasure coming on these sessions. I am Nelly Kwasinwi, social worker, transformational life coach, and co-director for Hand in Hand Community CIC. Welcome to this session.
Yes, so today, Nelly, we were just discussing that I think safety is something that bothers everybody. And when we talk about safety, safety encompasses many things. We're talking about emotional safety, we're talking about physical safety, psychological safety, you know. So, and as parents, we are talking from the perspective of safeguarding because this is, our children, their safety. And we're talking about what are the strategies, what are the ways that as parents we can safeguard our children, making sure that we tell them comfortably and safely about safety without scaring them, about it. Because today in our internet world, crazy things are happening. And how can we communicate to our children that they can be safe, they can take care of themselves, they can stay safe without scaring them and without actually projecting our own fear as parents. So I don't know whether Nelly, you want to kind of dive into this, and then the conversation can flow from there.
Yeah, safety, like Peggy said, is very, very important. And we talk about safety all the time. But I think let's take a step back to find out what safety is all about, because sometimes we use words without really understanding what that is and the implication. As far as safety is concerned, is to keep a child to make a child feel that they are comfortable, they are accepted, they are valued, so they can just be themselves. Now, majority of people struggle with safety because they have learned to pretend to be who they are not. And unfortunately, children pick up on those same characteristics because they know that or they feel that they need to do things to please some other person. And that way, they are not being true to themselves. And all that is because they don't know how to feel safe. And when people have lived in environments where it's dominated by fear and they don't know or they've never seen a model of someone or an environment that feels safe, when they get into a situation where they can be safe, or when they get into a lot of talks now is around psychological safety. When people find a place that they can feel safe, they become very skeptical because they have never experienced that safety, because they're always on hyper vigilant. What is going to happen? Something wrong is going to happen. So that is for the psychological part of safety. Psychological and emotional. We have the physical, which that one is common, like you look out for hazards. What are the things that can possibly cause danger? That one is easy. For instance, if water pours on the floor, straight away, that's a hazard. There is immediate action to wipe the water, dry it off so no one slips and falls. That is easy. But the one that is often missed is the psychological one that I've just talked about, which has a massive impact on children's lives and to adults, because children grow into adults. And looking at, probably it's because of the people that I work with, they are really struggling. They have been messed up because they don't know what safety is. They don't feel that they can be safe. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that is so true. I know, Nelly, when you were talking about, I was just kind of reflecting, a bit on my own self, because remember, we're talking here about safety. Where does safety, when children are put under our care, and from that early on age where we need to start teaching them certain things about safety, but done in an age appropriate way, where they start to learn from that very young age. Of course, we're going to talk about the different ages, where how we can communicate safety to our children depending on different age group. But when you were talking, I'm just thinking about, as a parent, if you yourself have grown maybe in a society where you yourself, you were not, you didn't feel safe growing up as a child, and then maybe even growing up into teenage and adulthood, and all the environment that you live, people have kind of made you're always walking on eggshell. So you tend to look at the environment from a very negative lens, and then you bring in children. The first thing that comes into your mind is that protection. You want to protect that child. And then as a result of that, you do not give that child the opportunity to explore and even maybe even make their own mistakes. But because we're so overprotective that we miss it. And I feel in that way, that is one of the things that is actually, in a way, impacting our children negatively, because if we don't give them that opportunity to explore in a safe way because of our own fears, then we're not really doing much on them. I'm just going to share, for example, if a child, well, I think I've shared about this so many times, where we're so overprotective that even my 15-year-old, I'll be feeling like, you know what, I don't want you to go on the train alone. I don't want you to go to another city, because I'm not, in my mind, again, I'm activating that fear that, something is going to happen. But I forget to understand that all I need to do is to tell that child that, hey, when you're on the train, just like you mentioned, Nelly, physical safety, look out for hazard. Make sure you do this, make sure you do that, But it takes courage, and you need to be conscious, and it takes a willful choice to actually explain and understand that, no, that child can go to that city and come back safely. All you need to do is to tell them to be alert, to look after themselves. So what I was just trying to say is that, as parents, if we put our own fear, project our own fear ahead, then we are limiting our children to actually explore and be able to look after themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's really true. And just to add to that, research has shown consistently that open and ongoing conversations rather than big talk significantly increases a child's ability to recognize ask for help, and protect themselves. Because a lot of times, what parents do is, coming from the area of or aspect of overprotection, they'll tell the child what to do. So then, giving the child a solution to a problem that is not there, and that way is limiting the child to explore. Because like now, children, they have their own ways of exploring risks because they understand what risks are. No one wants to be in a vulnerable position. So if we don't allow children to explore, to come up with solutions, then we are just overprotecting them. And there will be a time when the parents will not be there. The child might not have developed safety skills or skills to protect themselves. Then what? They will not be able to protect themselves at that time. So is to provide that safe space. Have those conversations, which is what we are talking about today. Let the conversations be age appropriate. Start from very small. You don't have to wait until your child is an adult before you start telling them about safety. There's safety in many different aspects, which we will talk about the ages, isn't it, Peggy? Peggy, you're on mute.
Yes, so sorry, I muted myself. So that's why I just wanted to talk about that. We're going to be talking, of course, about the three different age groups where I think from 3 to 6, and then we talk about from 7 to 11, and then from 12 and above. Because I think one of the important thing is to make sure that we have that age appropriate conversation about safety. And again, the reason why the important thing is that, especially from a parent that is coming from that background of maybe say domestic abuse, again, sometimes if we're not careful, we project our fear and we project whatever thing has happened, to our children, even at a very young age, which might impact their own health and well-being. So here we're talking about, in a primary school age. No, sorry, we talk about age group 3 to 6 months, where as parents we need to start signaling certain things about our children, telling them about certain things, when we talk about physical safety, where teach them not to hold hot things, like start telling them, hey, if you touch this thing, it's going to burn you. So I don't know whether Nelly we want to explore that. Is it age different groups that?
So, just okay, safety, we can start at a very young age. Say,
Mhm.
I think I've shared this example. When a child is still breastfeeding, you can start talking about safety there. For instance, when children are fond of when they are being breastfed or even bottle fed and they are almost full, they start playing with either the nipple or the tip of the feeding bottle by biting and pulling. That is where you can start teaching the child. Sometimes is take out either the breast or the bottle for them to, they might not understand straight away, but when you do that over and over, they will associate taking out the bottle and what they did. So as they grow older, is to start talking about it. For instance, another example, if a cup, you talk about cup, if a cup is hot and a child is hungry, they want to eat at that time. Sometimes you might explain and explain and explain. The child might not understand. But then when they touch the cup, but then you as a parent, you need to be there, supervision. If the child touches the cup, from that day, the child will know, even if it's a cold drink in a cup, that child will be scared because they have learned. It's not that the parent is being careless. It's different if the parent is not there. But when the parent is there supervising the child, it doesn't again mean that accidents cannot happen. Accidents can happen, but if a child touches it and they learn that that is hot and they don't like the sensation that they felt, that's a lesson. But if we overprotect the child, oh, don't fall, oh, don't, oh, we are projecting our own insecurities onto the child. Then when they get to, say, they start going to nursery, it's good to start teaching children to protect themselves and use age appropriate language. For instance, you might tell a child, when you go to nursery or when you go to school, whatever the situation is, just for the child to know that there are certain parts on their bodies that no one else need to touch. But since parents use different words that runs in families, we cannot give a specific word, but use what is familiar to you and your family to make sure that the children know that certain parts, they don't need to allow someone to touch them. And something, because something like when children get forced into activities that they don't like, it significantly damages the child, because not just for that moment, because children start feeling that they are dirty because someone has done something to them. And that really destroys lives massively. So if, say, you have been talking to your child and they feel that they can come talk to you, it's just ask it in like a check-in way, in a fun way. What did you do today? Did anyone touch you? Where, or did anyone make you feel uncomfortable? So it's those kind of conversation, because it is general, but it can be very specific. Has anyone made you uncomfortable? Or your day today, what things did you not like? Why did you not like it? And because when you have that open conversation, children will be telling you because of their innocence. They don't know, but it's the parents who intoxicate the children because of our own insecurities. And the children learn to be observant because they don't want to make mistakes. They want to say just the right things. And then as they get older, their vocabularies increase. So you can be having the way that your children understand, because a 10-year-old, it doesn't mean that all 10-year-olds will have the same kind of conversation. Some 10-year-olds can have a very mature conversation where, and say a 5-year-old can. So it just depends. It just depends. For instance, I'm sure I've shared this, like with one of my daughters. She was in primary and she was in her period, but we had the conversation a year before that. So it's just having those open conversations, honest ones. And it's not to make it that, oh, we need to book a time to have a conversation. No, you can be even cooking and just having them conversations, because, and this is something a lot of social workers do, when you want to talk to a child face to face, you will struggle to get information. But the if kind of information that you can get when you are driving and a car and driving your car and the child is sat at the back, what comes out from the child's mouth? Yeah, a lot. It's common. It's very common, because at that time they feel so relaxed. And you know, when people feel relaxed, the things just come out. They just come out because they are not thinking of what do I need to say, what do I not need to say. Because a lot of parents will tell children and threaten children that if you go to school and say that I smacked you or this happened, social services will take you away from us. You will go and you'll never come back. So then that fear. But when the child is relaxed, is calm, they just talk, not knowing that sometimes they are disclosing very, very important information that can put them, their family at difficult situations.
So that is so true, Nelly. Sorry, I keep muted. That is really true. And when we're talking, one thing that I also remember that there was one time that I tried to instill was, especially when my kids were kind of that teenage years. One thing I thought was about a code, a safety code, where again, if you go to school and somebody said something or did something, you know, that you didn't feel comfortable, if you come home, even because sometimes you may want to talk to children, they might not feel comfortable to talk about it. It's just like using a quote, was it, a thief or trespass? Did somebody trespass on something that maybe you didn't want to? You know, again, if you practice things like using code where your children know that safety code, then again they can know that if it falls within that safety code, then it's unacceptable. And one thing that you said, Nelly, there is very important. It's about building that atmosphere, conducive atmosphere where our children can feel comfortable to talk to us. But the temptation is that even though we may build that atmosphere, Nelly, there comes a time where the child does not even want to say anything. It's not as if, I don't know, maybe they get to their own network of friends. Like the friends may be saying, we are in this together. We don't want to share this thing that is happening is just happening amongst us. We don't want to share that thing at home. I don't know, in that circumstances, it's always difficult to try and bring out that thing from that child, or maybe try and encourage that child to actually express whatever thing they're having out there. So I don't know whether, Nelly, how can we go about that?
Yeah, we are talking about safety, and we are saying that it needs to start early and not to wait until the child gets into a situation. So, if, say, parents start practicing early to tell the child, and parents need to practice what they are saying, because
Mm,
they can be saying something else and practicing another. Children will copy what they see their parents do and not what they say. If you want your child to say no secrets, you need to start practicing that yourself. That, okay,
mm,
there is no secret. It is good when we have those conversations, because that's how we get to understand each other. It is okay if you don't want to talk, because, like I shared the last time, each of my children is different. If just me looking at any of my children, I will know that they are worried about something. Some of them, I will go to give a hug, and they'll be like, I know that. If I see that action, I know that they are really hurt.
yeah.
Sometimes some of them will, just very neutral, and
Mhm.
it's okay, because every child has their own way of dealing with their emotions, immediate emotion. Respect that. Because if a child comes in and that child doesn't want to talk about that at the time, respect the child. Don't force the child that you must tell me what's going on. And unfortunately, that is what a lot of parents do. That you must tell me. When you are not telling me, I feel very upset, or I feel very, because I don't know what's going on. Just leave the child. Respect that child. Because when the child calms down, they have many different reasons why they don't want to share that. Probably it could be that they understand the difficulty that the parent is going through, and they don't want to increase the parent's struggles.
Mm,
Sometimes it might be that they already know how the parent will react, and the parent's reaction might make them to feel even worse. So then they might decide to say, you know what, I'll just deal with it myself. Though they don't even know how to deal with it, but they'll be thinking that if my parent get involved, oh, and you look at it, you like on social media, you see a lot about African parents, how African parents, you see, they talk as if it's fun, but in reality, that is what goes on. And it really impacts on communication, because parents just say no. And the no is a full sentence.
do you know, when you were talking, I was just laughing because that is me. I was just laughing at, there are many times that I've come into it, like I come into my son's room, or maybe I walk into the house, and if my son was on his phone, immediately he'll turn the screen. And I'm always curious. If you hear me, I was like, what were you watching? And he'll tell me, I'll say, what is he talking about? And then he'll tell me, and sometimes I'm tempted to say, show me the screen. So again, I was laughing because it's hard, Nelly, because sometimes when you have that, wear that safety hat, like a parent, where you're keen to say, you know what, I just want to make sure that my kid is safe online. You know, what they're watching or who they're talking with is safe. The first curiosity is first of all to know what that child, who that child is talking. But then sometimes when you wear that, your panic had a lot. Even if that child was on a safe website, and to be honest with you, I would say 90% of the time, my son has actually shown me that he was actually talking with the friends, or he was actually on YouTube, or he was just watching his food video. But then me already with my safety hat, I'm already there. The first thing in my head, you are watching something wrong. So like you say, a child will react when they see you straight away. They will just turn their screen, maybe because they don't want you to know what they are doing, or maybe they already know the reaction that you're going to react if they tell you what they're doing. So I feel that as parents, because even me myself, I'm still learning to hold my breath. That what, it's okay if the child is on something, so long as you've told them about safety and you've told them about how to protect themselves. It's okay to leave them, let them explore, let them let them watch without being alert, without being like they're on eggshell. Because this is one of the things that, again, parents, we feel like our kids are always on eggshell because they're worried, what the reaction is going to be from the parents if they were to find out that this is what we're watching and all of that. So again, I put my hands up and say, these days I'm beginning to practice pause. Just pause.
Yeah, you talked about having them conversations, educating our children, because many years back, I was on that because because I was putting parental controls, but then I don't know how, especially my son, he would bypass the parental controls, and I'll be like, how did you get past that? So he was coming up with many different codes and links and whatnot because he had a group of friends and they were sharing. So then when I
Yeah.
put the parental control, I don't know how he was doing it. So I think when he was like 12, 13, I was like, you know what? There's no point because I put the parent control, but then he'll bypass it, and I didn't know how he was doing it. So
Mm.
I had been having them online safety conversations with him, and I was telling him, when you are playing these online games, who do you play with?
Mhm.
So sometimes I, there was a time he would play with anyone who was online. And
Yeah.
I told him, not everyone who presents to be your age is actually your
Mhm.
age.
Yeah.
At first, he didn't understand, and he'll be like, "Why would someone say that a child when they're not a child?" I said, "Because some people are looking for praise. Some people are just predators. They are looking for
Mhm.
children and all whatnot." And
Mhm.
then over time, he started understanding. And then I think there was a couple of times, he came and told me that he was playing with someone, but then he doesn't think that that person is a child.
Mhm.
And I was curious because that was something that we had talked about. And then I was like, what makes you think? I said, have you seen the person? He said, no. I said, what makes you think that that person is not a child? He said,
Mm.
just the way the person was talking, it doesn't sound like a child. I was like,
Yeah.
you remember what I've been talking about? I said, be very careful. Now you understand. So I said, when you are playing, it's good to play with your friends because, like
Yeah.
PlayStation, all of his friends
Mhm.
have PlayStation, so they play on many different games together. So then he understood. So now he is on his thing. We cannot stop what they are doing there because we don't know. Because the more we say, don't, 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 the more they are curious that why are our parents saying don't.
Yeah.
But when you have that open conversation and just leave them, make as if there's nothing, they will find out for themselves and
Yeah.
they will realize it. They understand what some risks are. So then
Yeah.
they will want to put some actions in place.
Yeah, no, that is so true. That is so true. And one thing I've noticed is that the more we insist about something to our kids, for some reason, I don't know, Nelly, I don't know whether it's like a force or something. The more you insist on something, the more they do that thing that you don't want.
You
But when
know,
we leave it, when we just leave it, when you just leave it and ignore it, you see they start to readjust. So I don't know whether
you
but
know,
it's contrary
there,
to our own
Peggy.
parenting.
No, Peggy, there is down to psychology. So if you tell someone, don't look for red color, that is just the color that the person will look for. They are not actively looking for, but it is like an instruction that you have given the mind that
Yeah,
look for red color. But that's not what you said. You gave the instruction. Don't look for red color. It's just how the mind works. It's just like when, okay, let's say you want to buy a car. Let's say, tell me what kind of car. Let me just give an example.
blue car. I want a blue car.
Okay, let's say you want a blue car. You want what make?
Toyota.
Okay, let's say you want a Toyota blue car. Once you have that in mind, you will start seeing Toyota blue car everywhere. And when previously you had not been seeing Toyota blue car. So that's
Yeah,
how the mind works. So that's the same thing when we tell children and insist that do not, in a way, we are telling them that go there.
yeah,
But then when we leave it, they don't put any importance to it.
yeah. No, that is what I've learned recently, Nelly, and it's actually preserving my peace. And I hope that any parent that is listening, if you can just practice this, because it's just a simple thing to practice. These days, what I've repeated and repeated and repeated, in fact, there are things that I've been repeating from when they were very young and up to now, they're adults, and even they're still repeating it. And it's because I've been talking about it all over. So I have just stopped talking about it. And I noticed that when I stop talking about it, that's when they do the right thing. They do the thing that I want them to do. So just like you say, I think it's got really got something to do with with psychology. The second thing that we want to talk about is identify key safety topics every child. Because again, that first topic will explore how to talk about in safety ways for our kids to understand. We cannot look about identify key safety topics every child should know. And again, you've already mentioned psychological safety or emotional safety, which I think is the key component of safety, for our children. And I don't know whether there was more they wanted to explore on that, and then we can talk about, we've touched a little bit about physical safety,
Yeah,
and then
we've
we
talked
can talk
about
about
online
relationship.
safety.
Yeah,
Yeah. So one thing is trusted adults and
yeah.
help seeking. So in the African community, we know that a child does not belong to one person. A child
Mm,
belongs to the community. When it comes to safety, I would tell parents when your child says that they don't feel comfortable with
mm,
X or Y or Q, listen to that child. Because a lot of the times, what parents do is they'll shout at the child that, what are you talking about? That's your auntie,
mm,
that's your uncle, that's your big sis, that's your big bro. But that child has a reason.
mm,
So let's start listening to our children. Yes, we know the adults are there to support, but once a child starts bringing any concern or distancing themselves, or when you are sad and a child, say when you are sitting and someone walks in and you see your child like freezes,
mm.
very observant. There's something, listen to that child because
Yeah.
a lot of things go on, especially within the family, that are kept secret because the person who is committing the act will tell the child never to say it, and even
Mm,
threaten them that if they try to say it, no one will believe them. So then the
mm,
child will be there in their head. Imagine, in their head they are thinking, oh, I'm bad, all these negative things. They internalize it, and then that person's voice, they hear it all the time. Probably when they want to speak out, they will
mm-hmm.
hear that person's voice, and that is how they'll keep it within themselves. And slowly, you see, it gets into anxiety, depression, other forms of mental illnesses. So let's be observant and notice our children. And if you notice something in a child, don't just talk about it in the crowd. Yes, they are family, but then call the child, because the child will easily speak up when they feel that they are in a safe space. Probably take the child to, say, the garden. If the household is busy, take the child to the garden and just have a little walk around, and then be asking. There, the child doesn't feel that they are in a very restricted place where they cannot share. At that time, they might feel relaxed and they will say things. So let's be very, very careful, how, or mindful how we communicate with our children, especially when we notice that our children don't feel comfortable with certain family members or friends or people in the community. And seeking help is important. When we as parents start seeking for help,
Mm-hmm.
children understand that it is okay to seek for help. And then the children will also start seeking for help. For instance, if a child goes to school and you tell the child, if you go to school and you are struggling, tell the teacher, tell the whoever, whether it's a teaching assistant, but tell someone. The child will feel confident. But if you threaten a child that if you go to school and there's anything, don't you dare talk to anyone about it. So then the child will go to school, they'll be struggling, but then they will not be able to seek for help because they'll just hear the parent's voice saying whatever they were saying to the child. So we need to be modeling what we want our children to be.
That is so true. When you were talking, there was a statistics. I was trying to actually look for that statistics, which actually said that there was a very high rate of percentage where it say more abuse perpetrated against children is actually perpetrated by families, close
Yeah.
family members. I couldn't lay hand on that statistics. And when you were just talking, especially amongst our BME community, that idea of family, that idea of uncles and aunties and all of that, mind you, you can have 1,001 aunties, you don't even know which one. Everybody you see is auntie. And these are the things that is also important to actually teach our children about closest relationship, who is actually their closest aunties and uncles. Because just the name aunties and uncle, that auntie and uncle can be somebody, that is distant, somebody who is just a family friend, or you don't even know what that person can do. And the fact is that because we also believe in that our family network, or that family, that community spirit, we feel that everybody else in there is nice. There are some people who are actually toxic. There are some people there who are actually perpetrators, and purifiers and all of that, you name it. But if we are not, just like you say, we need to be vigilant to start watching how our kids are behaving when each time they come into contact with certain people within this family and these so-called aunties and uncles. How do they behave? Because as parents, if we're not vigilant, we will miss it. And when we are not also open-minded as parents, if that child is trying to tell us, we castigate that child. We don't believe them, and again, just by wanting to protect that family name or to protect that relationship, we will tend to disbelieve that child just because we want to protect that relationship. So I think I'm going to look for that statistics, and next time I'll share it, because I think it's an eye opener for us to be really vigilant, especially among our communities. Yeah.
Just to add to that, It is, yes, it is really common within our communities. And sometimes when the child, just linking to what you've said, when the child wants to talk to their parents, sometimes they get beaten, they get
Mm,
chastised for that. Don't bring shame onto the family. This is just a child trying to express what has been done on them, and then they get punished. And imagine if a child is that distressed and then they go to talk and they get
mhm,
punished. What becomes of that child? That child already trusts because they are looking up to the parents for protection, but then
mhm.
the parents are not able to protect them. They don't feel safe. But where can they go to? Where can they go to?
Exactly. Exactly.
I think
No, that is
another
so
point,
true.
another point just to add is around community and environmental safety. Do you want to talk
Mhm.
on that?
Yeah, so community and environmental safety, yes, I think we can, it's very important about that, where we talking about, again, we as coming from the Afro-Caribbean background, we believe a lot in community, and again, it's about meeting in groups where we meet and we celebrate and all of that. Mind you, again, this is where vigilance needs to take place, because amongst there can also be exploitation. There can also be exploitation, even though that child will be looking at that person and saying that this is my uncle, this is auntie. Uncle can be doing something that is not right. Auntie can be doing something that is not right. And when we're talking about safety here, emotional, psychological safety, we're also talking about safety. What is it? What is the language that uncle and that auntie is telling that child? There are some times that, especially with our judgmental attitude, and somebody may see your child just the way they dressed and the way they will address that child, the way they will talk about that child, in such a way that you don't know that that statement that you've made has just dampened that child's spirit. And because if we're talking about safety, we're also looking around all of that. What is the communication? What is the language? What is the atmosphere within that community? Because if the language and the atmosphere and what is being perpetrated, the stigma that is amongst them, if it is not safe for our children, why do we even need our children to be amongst them? Yes, it's good to have that community network, but as parents, we also need to be evaluating, is it safe for our children? Is it even safe for us, the parents? Because sometimes among the environment may not be even safe for us as parents, talk alone taking our kids into that sort of setting. So again, yes, we need to be watchful around those we network with. They say show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. It's the same thing. Show me your community. It's not all community. Yes, I may come from a certain community. I come from Cameroon. If I'm in a Cameroonian community and I feel that that Cameroonian community is not healthy for my mental well-being, or is not good for my mental health and the mental health of my children, I must not belong. It's not a must that I must be part of it. So it's about looking for a community that can support you emotionally, can support you mentally, and can make sure that you are safe. They can watch out for you. A good community will watch out for you for your safety, whether physical, mental, psychological, or whichever way, they will watch out for you. So, but if you're there and you're not getting that support, you feel that you're not safe among that community, then there is no need for that. So yeah, I don't know if I touched on that or if there's anything that I missed
Yeah,
in
that's it.
terms of.
That's it. Yeah, I think we can move safely to the next step, which is share strategies for building trust and open communication. I know we've been
Mhm.
talking about having them open and honest communications with our children.
Yeah.
So sometimes children might come up with topics that might take parents as a surprise, regardless of what kind of topic your child brings to you. The first thing you need to learn to do is to stay calm. Stay calm. When people live in constant fear, they don't know how staying calm feels like. They don't even know how to stay calm. But it's just to, like Peggy talked about the breathing. Don't respond straight away. Just stop. Because when you stop, there are a lot going on in your head. But then
Mm.
you try to compose what you want to talk about. But staying calm is very important because imagine whatever that child is bringing up, it might be something that they are dealing with in their own world. And if
Mm.
you, as a parent, you feel that you are very uncomfortable with that child, just ask yourself, who then is best placed to have that conversation with your child?
Mm.
If you, as a parent, are not able to have that conversation, then you are in a way opening the doors for your child to go out there and look for the conversation for and look for more information. So these are all skills that parents can develop. I myself, I have worked for years to develop such skills because like one of my children, the kind of conversations that I've had with her, I had not had it with the older children.
Mm.
But then the first time she came, I was like, in my head, I was like, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? But I was learning to stay calm.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed calm for some time. And then I asked her to get her understanding of what the topic is. So hearing from her what she knows, because it's not just me telling her that this is. And that is a strategy that I use in even my daily conversations. So I asked her, okay, you've brought up this topic. Just tell me more about it. What does it do? Just exploring. And then she told me. And then the conversation flowed because I knew what she understood about that topic. And honestly, there are some topics that I don't even know. And then when I ask, they will tell me, all my children, because there are certain things that they know that I don't even know. So then, using that, the tactics to stay calm, because when you stay calm, you are trying to organize your thoughts. And then I start asking them those questions. And now I've learned that if I don't know something, regardless of the age of the person, I'm just honest and I say, you know what? I don't have a clue what that is. Please, can you tell me a bit more? And especially when you say that to younger children or to children or those who are younger than yourself, they feel like, oh, it's a pride that they need to teach you. So just as an adult, as a parent, we don't have to know everything. We cannot know everything. It's just to accept that and then give the child the opportunity to tell you what is. But remember to stay calm.
That's so true, Nelly. And I think when you were talking, one thing that I also picked up, which I think is also a strategy or a way of building that safety, in communication or that trust, is about being vulnerable as self as parents. Because I know sometimes as parents we feel like, you know what, we want to play that super power, that super mama or super daddy role and feel like our life has been smooth. I didn't do this or I didn't do no. When we do that, then we kind of block that means of communication because our children will start feeling like that. If you were perfect, then there's no need for me to be sharing certain things. Sometimes about being vulnerable, but being vulnerable to a certain extent, not open up everything. It's about managing information, but doing it in such a way that you're telling your child that it's okay to make mistakes. There was one time I was your age. I was your age as well. And there are certain things that I used to do as well, which, but tell the story from the standpoint of strength that, these are the things that I learned from this behavior, which if I were in that age, that same position, I will not repeat it again. But in that way, we are telling our children that it's okay because we were once their age and we did this thing. We've learned from it. And if we are telling them that this thing is not right, it's because we have also gone through that same thing. But if we keep acting all the time like we are perfect beings, everything, then I don't think that is opening up communication. We're not building that trust and encouraging them to speak up. And another thing that I was just wanted to pick on that is about, yes, the point where you talk about letting them to actually lead the way in the conversation. I think that's one thing that has actually, because to be honest with you, our kids are far.
Peggy, you're on mute.
Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Our kids are very, very far ahead, with what they know. In fact, compared to what we know these days, in a minute, they can actually download information that it will take us even how many months and years to know, and they'll know it just like that. And so sometimes it's very important, just like you say, to allow them to lead the way, especially on a topic where we ourselves are struggling with, that we don't really understand. We can allow them to lead the way, but then we guide them with our own maturity and our own wisdom as parents, towards, guide them alongside the conversation, so that in that way they don't only lean on what they get from the internet. And when you were talking about creating trusted environment, again, I think, just like we mentioned in one topic one time, it's also about building a network of certain people that your kid can be signposted to them, because sometimes they may not want to actually open up to you or want to say certain things to you, but they may have one or few trusted networks or people that you can tell them that, hey, even if there are times that you don't feel okay to talk to me, you can reach out to this person, to that person, to that person, to have that conversation with. In that way, we do not leave them stranded, and then we do not leave them to resort to either a wrong network or a wrong a source to seek support from. So yeah, that's just one thing I just wanted to add on that. And that takes us nicely to the fourth point, which talk about empower parents to approach difficult conversation with confidence. Because this is another area that, for us to be able to actually communicate safety to our children, we also need to communicate safety to ourselves as parents. Ask ourselves, how are we safe ourselves? Are we safe in our belief? The thoughts that we think, are they safe? The belief that we hold, are they safe? The people that we hang out with, are they safe? Is the environment, the network, are they safe? So we need to first of all make sure that we are safe ourselves. Because just like you said, Nelly, whatever thing we do, our kids, they mimic, they see the environment, the type of relationship that we have, we have. If our kids are saying that those type of relationship are not safe, and maybe allowing people, there are certain things, there are certain ways that we even allow ourselves for people to treat us in certain way, when we give them that power to treat us. If we keep giving, if our kids watch us day by day, giving away our power, giving away our voice, not standing for ourselves, not being confident and assertive in our own needs, that is the same thing that they're going to pick up. And if they pick up these attributes which are not positive, this is how it's going to actually impact their safety. Because safety will mean for them like giving away my voice. If I give away my voice, that means I'm safe, but again, is that the right thing to do? So I just feel that that's just one thing I just wanted to point out, like, we need to be confident and safe in our own self, to be able to impact, to teach our kids as well to be safe and confident in themselves.
Yeah. Just looking at it, most parents want their children to be safe,
Mm.
but then because of fear, they avoid having those safety conversations with their children, because they might have fear around, I don't want to scare my child on the safety topic.
Mm.
What if I say the wrong thing? Introducing topics too early. So for these 3 points, if you go back and use the steps that we have shared today, that let
Mhm.
the child lead the conversation, then you will understand the language that the child is using. You will understand what the child already knows. So then introducing whatever early will not be there because the child already knows. You just want to add to the real information because
Mhm.
sometimes parents give misinformation. For instance, um, there's this story that I heard long ago
Mhm.
that there was a girl who used to go to school, and her mom would say, "Don't let anyone see your pants, your
Mm.
your your underwear." So this girl went to school one day and she forgot her shorts for sports. So what she did was she ran to the bathroom, took out her pants and put it in her bag and ran naked. So
Oh,
it was the information the mom gave that don't let anyone see your pants. And that's what she did because she took out the pants and put in her bag. But then, so we need to be giving out information very clearly. So imagine,
oh, I can imagine the poor child.
yeah, yeah.
And just
So that's
imagine
why
the
we say communication is
yeah,
very important. And like research shows that early communication, age appropriate education increases protection and reduces vulnerability. So it's
very
never
true.
too late. It's never too early as
Very
long
true.
as you monitor your child, what they are saying, how they are saying it, and then you make your contribution.
Yeah, that's so true. And for a parent that is listening, you may think that, oh gosh, maybe I should have started years ago and I didn't start, but now everything has just gone pear-shaped and my child is not listening anymore, or maybe my child is not understanding me, or maybe I don't feel comfortable to start that conversation. What we are saying is that it's never too late. It's just about changing your strategies. It might just little tiny steps and doing things in a different way can actually reignite that trust again, in among you and your children. So again, there are certain things that maybe that's something you've done from when that child was young. Even now, when they're grown up, you can still start doing things differently. And I feel it's about building that trust to make them know that, hey, you can trust me with that conversation. We can actually communicate in a way that I'm not going to blame you. I'm not judging you. I'm not having a conversation to judge you. I just want to understand what is it you're going through and how can I help, you know, in my own little way that I can help. So as parents, it's never too late. Just try and change strategy. And again, seek support. There are a lot of support within the community because again, sometimes we feel like, we are we don't want that again, that embarrassment, especially from our Afro-Caribbean community, where we feel like it's an embarrassment to ask for help. No, it's actually a strength to ask for help, because if you don't ask for help, no one is going to know what you're going through. But like I always say, ask for help from the right source and from the right people, that they are going to support you without judging you, right? So it's very, very important to actually step on and ask for help, so that in that way you can also help your child.
Yeah. And something that Peggy and myself we talk about is it's never too late to learn.
Yeah.
If you've been spending, say, 1 hour on the internet catching up with all the gossips, you can bring it down to 30 minutes. Use the
Hmm.
other 30 minutes. There are so many free websites. Even on YouTube, you can learn because, like for myself, I started off when I didn't have the money, I started off watching YouTube videos, and they have value. So
Mm.
start making use, but then manage your time properly. Like I said, instead of spending 1 hour watching updates on gossips that will not help you, you can reduce it down, split it into two. Use 30 minutes for your gossip and use 30 minutes to educate yourself, because that will be self-empowerment. You'll be self-empowering you, and your children will benefit from that because you'll start learning new things, and then to have an open mindset as well. So it doesn't mean that when you go on any training, you take up on all the actions that
Mm.
you come across, because then you'll be confused. You will not know what to do.
Mm.
When you have all these ideas, pick and choose what suits you. But then don't take only the one that you feel comfortable with, because you will not grow in what you call your comfort zone. Do some things that will challenge you, that you will feel uncomfortable, so that you will start practicing the things that you were scared of. For instance, if you have always been saying yes to your child because, oh, I love my children so much, I want to give them everything, and then it gets to a point you start telling the child to do this, and the child looks at you and says, oh mom, you are, start talking back and things like that. It didn't start only that day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for you to start taking action. Start with yourself, because you will be empowering yourself to help those children.
That is so true. That is so true. I think that brings us to the end of our show today. We've talked, honestly, to be honest with you, we've kind of covered this in some previous topics, and every day we come here to talk about our children, their safety. Is all about safety. It's all about safeguarding them. We love them so dearly. Sometimes they may get on our nerves. Sometimes we may talk and talk and talk, and we feel like, nobody's hearing us. What I always say is that don't stop talking. Keep telling them, right? Keep telling them the right way, but in a safe way, not to scare them, and giving them the freedom to also express themselves, and sometimes letting them to make the mistake and learn from it. I'll end with this. There was one time that I kept telling my son, when they go in the bathroom to have a bath, and they have a bath, for some reason they'll come out with all the water on their body. I don't know. I've told, even so many times I've been in the bathroom, I've even demonstrated to them how you can be safe in the bathroom, how you can have your shower, actually dry yourself while still in the bath, so that when you put your feet out, you know that you're not carrying so much water, because it's not good for you can slide on it. But when you tell them these things, it's like, oh, mom, you're too this, you're over particular, and I say, okay. I just left it. And there was one day, my bathroom is just beside my bed, and I heard this big bangs on the floor, and I was like, "What is happening?" When I knocked on the bathroom, my son had actually fell. He actually slipped from where? From that same water. That and when I came in the bath, I said, "What happened?" He said, "I slipped." Where was the water from? I don't know, but then he knew where. So I think that was just it. That taught him the lesson. And I said, and honestly, I wanted to bite my tongue that day to not to say anything, but I say, you know what? I just said, I told you. So anyway, at least that is a lesson learned. So like we said, Nelly, it's just that we gave the example of a cup, a hot cup. It's not as if we are letting our children to harm themselves. But sometimes when you talk, especially when they are teenagers, when you tell them, keep saying it, and they don't, just let them be, let them do it, and then learn from it. So again, it's about, and then again, we talk about being safe ourselves. the relationship that we have, we need to make sure that they're safe, so that in that way we're communicating the right thing again to our children. So I hope that you learned something from this. And Nelly, I don't know whether there's any conclusion that you want to conclude, and then we end the day.
I just want to conclude that when children know their voices matter, their voices belong to them, and they can always come to you, that is safety. They know they are
Yeah,
safe.
absolutely. Thank you so much for joining. And like we say, if you joined later or you watch this video later, we do appreciate your comment. And if you want maybe to be part of our, panel, always send us a message. Nelly and I will bring you forth so that we can have a conversation. At the end of the day, like we always say, we are just sharing our own experience. We've made our mistake. We are still learning. We are still learning, in the journey. There are days that we are still learning. When Nelly and I come on here, there are certain things that Nelly will say that I would like pick from Nelly, learn from Nelly, Nelly learn from. We learn from each other. So don't feel that nobody is perfect. We're not perfect parents. We just want to be present, a parent who are present. That's all. So we hope that you learned something from here, and we hope to see you again in 2 weeks time. And if you have a topic that you want Nelly and I to talk about it again, please do so, share it on here, and we'll always pick on it. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again in 2 weeks
Thank
time.
you so much, and see you in
Bye.
2 weeks. See ya. Bye.